You're listening to the Awaken Broadcast with Cecilia Angel, a space for embodied awakening, honest human conversation, and a living, breathing connection to God's source. This is your invitation to awaken. Welcome back to the Awaken Broadcast. I am your host, Cecilia Angel. This is the second time recording this episode. Do you know why? Because I got so thoroughly triggered the last time that I shared this story. I literally recorded an entire episode, and the whole time I was so triggered. That's how you know that there is power and potency in a story. You know what happened after I recorded this same episode the first time? I walked away, I laid down on my couch, and I passed out. My whole nervous system shut down. I slept for 2 hours, 3 hours, dead to the world. That's how powerful this one is. Not only that, my whole Wi-Fi mysteriously short-circuited for like 2 hours. Couldn't connect to Wi-Fi, maybe an hour. I might be exaggerating. Well, I mean, really, I don't know because I was sleeping. But when I woke up and I tried to use the internet, nothing. No reason for it. There was no outage, nothing like that. I genuinely feel sometimes, and maybe we'll even experience that on this podcast, but if you're in my membership, you know, when we are working with frequency over the internet, sometimes the frequency interferes with the connection. And that just is a thing. It happens pretty frequently. I have a masterclass, a really powerful masterclass called From Powerless to Powerful. The channel transmission, which is one of the most powerful channel transmissions I've ever delivered. As it was coming through, the connection, you can literally see it. I didn't even edit it. Listen to it like a podcast. It's great, actually. It's a channel transmission on infinite power games, releasing these limited power games that keep us in so much suffering, where we feel like we have limited resource. We have no limited resource. We are literally sourcing from the infinite source of life itself. And so the story of being powerless is a lie. Sorry, not sorry. And then I guide you through an embodiment practice to embody your power, and not just your power, but the greater power that flows through each and every one of us. This isn't just like you're powerful and someone else is not. That's the whole teaching. Because we are of the divine, we are all powerful. And not in this like, I am all powerful kind of way. No, even the playing field. I'm powerful, you're powerful, there's enough power for us all, enough to go around. We don't even have to take it. We don't have to give it. So it's just a big shift in perspective. So I digress. Sometimes the energy that I bring messes with the technology, and really sometimes I mess with myself. And so I'm starting again. I'm doing this episode over from scratch with a new energy and a new perspective after having spent 2 days processing emotionally in order to be able to tell the story from a grounded place, from a place of power. And I feel like even before I even tell you what the story is about, it's useful to know that only in the last year, the reason that I am here, sitting here, talking to you on the YouTube or the Spotify or the Apple, wherever you're finding this, the only reason I'm here is because of the work that I have been doing to overcome my fears of what was presented to me in a vision, in the experience that I'm going to tell you about. Just this last year. This happened, the thing that I'm going to tell you about happened in 2018. How many years is that? That's 8 years. It has taken me 8 years. That's so crazy to think about. It's been 8 years since this happened. It has taken me 8 years to get right, to get aligned. We are about to enter into the territory of major refusal of the call, which will probably be next episode where I tell you about the refusal of the call. Next episode? Probably like 2 episodes from now. God, this story is thorough. It is thorough. But the next story that I'm going to tell you in this episode rocked me so hard. It has taken me 8 years to get to a place where I'm willing to, okay, you can see me. I'll tell the story. And even still, I told the story and then triggered myself and passed out 2 days ago. And now I'm re-recording the episode. So bear with me. I'm going to do my best. I'm going to do my best while I tell you this story. And I'm going to tell you, and I'm going to call on divine. I'm going to call on the divine to give me strength, to give me courage, to power through me, because it was the divine that brought this vision to me. It is the divine that gave me this mission. And I accept stubbornly. I accept it has taken a great deal of work to become who I am today, and there's still so much work ahead of me. So bear with me. Bear with me, darling. I'm going to do my best. Also, I feel like it's so useful for me to share with you the hilarity of my current setup, because I have a good microphone, but I hate the idea. I hate the idea of having a big old arm in my face. I need to be free because I'm very expressive. I don't know if you've noticed, but I express myself and I like to take up space. I don't want things in my space, but I only have a microphone arm. I don't have just yet. I haven't. That will change. I don't have just a thing for my microphone to sit on. So this is what I got going. This is my best friend's favorite mug. It says Wanderlust. Welcome to the Awaken Broadcast with Cecilia Angel. And I just have it on a stack. Let's see if I can not fuck up my mic while I do this. Slow motion for me. I have it on a stack of my husband's books. You know what? If you're watching this and you have a desire to create, to put yourself out there, but something that's holding you back is that you're like, I don't have the right setup. I need to have the right setup. No, you don't. Put your motherfucking microphone in a mug. It doesn't have to be perfect. Record an entire podcast and scrap it. Try again. Do better. You're the only one holding yourself back, man. You're the only one telling yourself that story. Whatever story you think somebody else is telling, it's because of somebody else. I'm afraid of other people. I'm afraid of whatever you're afraid of. It's all you, baby. You're the one. Sorry, now I have to set up this whole thing again. It's a little finicky, and it's going to be so beautiful. When I get a proper microphone, a proper microphone stand, I'm going to show you. Okay? I imagine that one day I will have like a full-on dope podcast studio, but also this is a pretty dope room in my house. Also, what was I doing? I mean, I probably still will sit right there, but I moved my space. I'm figuring it out. This might be my favorite positioning so far. I like this setup. What do you think? Anyways, I digress. Gosh, I'm so silly today. Okay. So the story that I have for you today. So let's first, where did we leave off? We left off, I just finished up in Death Valley. I had a wild experience in Death Valley. I am now in absolute unbroken devotion to the divine. I still at this point don't even call it God. I call it the voice. You probably noticed that. It took me a long time to really understand and comprehend that God was talking to me. And I'll probably do I'll do an entire episode to help you to get right with God. What I like to say is call it whatever you want. If you need to call it universe, divine, source, Yahweh, whatever you want to call it, the mystery, the all. My father-in-law calls it the is. So, call it what you want. I generally call it God, but I will also interchange it. And I do that for you. I don't do that for me. When I talk to God, I talk to God. And obviously, when I first started this journey, I wasn't quite ready for the G word. It carries a lot of baggage. Comes with a lot of weight. But it got to a point, especially after Death Valley, where it was so obvious that the entire consciousness of the universe was directly communicating to me. I just want to say that as somebody who has historically felt incredibly unworthy, when God started talking directly to me and being like, hello, I am here. Are you listening? Do you hear me? Do you feel me? Do you see me? Do you know me? Nope. Me? Why not literally anyone else? And God has just said to me, why not you? Why not anyone? Anyone can be in communication with the divine. It's not some special thing. It's not saved for special people. There's just some people that are much more receptive to coming into that direct relationship with God. Now, I stand as a permission giver for you that you can have a direct relationship with God. I tell you this story to show you the journey that it has taken for me to get there. But today, I love my relationship with God. It's the best thing in my life. It has set me free. So February 2018, I complete Vision Fast in the Desert. Once again, my life has changed. I come home. I know I keep saying this and I keep alluding to this. I feel like because there is just an impact moment later on, I call this foreshadowing. Once again, my partner was not super receptive to the fact that I'd had another big experience of spiritual awakening. The distance between us, it was hard. And I wanted to say, spoiler alert, I am now happily married and madly in love, and I have zero regrets. But I would be lying to you if I told you that when I think about this time, especially as I'm revisiting it through telling the story, I'm remembering the strife, the agony that I was in watching slowly and panicking, honestly. Oh shit, this man that I love, it's all falling apart. What do I do? So I'm just setting the scene for a part of the story that's obviously coming down the road. And it was actually a really big deal. And honestly, until telling this story, I haven't allowed it to be as big of a deal as it was. And I'm not going to jump ahead. I'm going to a little bit jump ahead. When I did finally leave, it was such a massive, explosive decision that it wouldn't be until later on that I was actually able to grieve that loss and actually be able to hold the immensity of pain and suffering that caused me. And this is really the first time that I've been able and given myself a space where I can actually speak to the absolute tragic heartbreak of losing someone that I really loved. And I think all of us have gone through something like that, where you start to change and you start to realize that even somebody that you thought would be there forever isn't going to be able to come with you in the next season. I would say I handled that a little bit better these days, but at the time I had never had anything like that happen. A lot of times when we go through spiritual awakening, there is a process of shedding, of fallout, relational fallout, whether it's with friends or lovers or family members. The more that we start to see and we start to open, it's not uncommon to have fallout happen in your life. And my best advice for that is to allow yourself to grieve it. Let yourself grieve to the extent that you are able in any given moment. Now, when I was reflecting on how to tell this story, what are the things that are most important about this story? Because primarily today's story is about ayahuasca and my entryway into ayahuasca, a very dramatic entryway into ayahuasca. Oh my God, gara sintra ayahuasca via suntra ni kiantro si kiantro. But I also recognize that there's actually another piece of this puzzle that is important and useful to speak into, which is that in 2018, I started reading a book called I Am the Word by Paul Selig. Let me be so crystal clear right now. I am a professional channel. I speak in light language. I bring through messages from the divine and the beyond. Yes, I do that. But I am so unconventional as a channel because most channels in the world, I do not resonate with them at all. Including like Abraham Hicks and like the well-known ones. Nope. I respect them as fellow human beings. And I respect that other people get a lot of value. But I think a lot of times, especially when I connect with other people who channel, a lot of people are surprised to know that I don't really associate with any of that. I don't fit into your, what we might say, new age mold. I just don't. I honestly never resonated with it. I did a brief stint, which I'll tell that story next. That'll be my next story. I did a brief stint, and the entire time in the new age, I did not feel comfortable. It didn't feel right. It felt off. It felt overwhelming. It really jacked up my nervous system. And so there are very few channels that I resonate with. But when I came in contact with Paul Selig, if you don't know who Paul Selig is, my recommendation, listen to it on Audible. Easy, digestible. It's very higher consciousness channeled content. But if you ever see Paul actually channel, I've been to multiple of his events. I have done a session with him. I really went in. I would say that he is one of my teachers. I've actually been thinking I need to put him on my prayer board because this man changed my life. And the wisdom that comes through him is undeniable because of the way that it comes through, because the words will come out of him super fast, like faster than you can even grasp. And then he'll repeat it more clearly. So it's jarring as heck to watch this man channel in real time. And I really believe, because Paul, bless his soul, has so much resistance. And I get this because of everything that I have seen through my channel. I really have so much compassion. And when I listen to Paul's channel, it really resonates with me when he has resistance. And even if you show up to my channel transmissions from time to time, even to this day, I will interrupt the channel and say, "Ooh, I don't know. I don't know if I can say that," But he often will fight against the information because it is so pure and true. I've never heard anything so clear and so undeniable, irrefutable truth. And he has so much resistance. And I think that's what actually allowed me to open up to the work that he was sharing, because I was so skeptical. I was skeptical way longer than I should have been. I was so resistant to all of this. Even with all of this stuff happening, there was still a part of me that was like a little curmudgeon-y. My friends know that I have been stubborn and resistant to what I came here to do. And I think that's what allowed me to trust Paul, because he wasn't just saying it and being like, "Oh, this wise and holy information is coming out of me." He was just like, "I don't know how I feel about this. This makes me uncomfortable. We're talking about Christ consciousness, the return of the Christ." It's really powerful. So respect to Paul and his continued resistance. I hope that he allows himself to come around at some point to just accept that this is so much more than just him. I understand he's been doing this for so long. I can understand where he was at. It can be, this is going to be a long podcast again. I don't actually have a time limit on these podcasts. They're going to be however long they are. I don't know. But when you are a channel, actually, this is so important for me to say before I even tell you this story. When you open your channel, and particularly when you start to bring through information of such a high caliber, when you start to awaken your vision, when you start to be able to feel and sense or have like prophetic visions or anything like that, from the outside looking in, it can be very mystifying and wow, amazing. This person, oh, the experience they're having is so special. But as someone with firsthand experience of it, it is not that way. It's actually a burden. I remember back in the day, I used to do psychic readings, and this one woman booked a session with me, and it was really earth-shattering for her. And she was in tears afterwards, and she said to me, she said, "Look, I know this is such a gift, and I'm really grateful for this gift that you have, but I imagine that for you, it can feel like such a burden sometimes." And without even a thought, I burst into tears. And I remember being at one of Paul's events this one day, and the night before, I had been in meditation. You should have seen me before my channel fully opened. I was writing in my notebook, "I am a clear channel for God. I have a direct line to the divine. I am all over my notebook, just scribbling it like a crazy person." And the night before I sat in meditation, I said, I'm ready. I'm ready to open my channel, to connect with my guides, to connect with the divine, to connect with my soul. The next morning, we come into session during one of his weekend-long events, and he just says, first thing, he says, "I don't know why anyone wants to do this. I don't think they actually understand what it is that it is to do this. I don't know why people ask to do something like this. It's such a responsibility. It's such a burden." And in the moment, I felt so called out because I had been so passionately the night before saying, "I want this. I want this." And when it awakened for me, when my spiritual gifts started coming online, and they came on rapidly, and with an intensity, many times I would nod to Paul and thank him for saying that in that moment, because it was very validating. Because as much as it seemed like such a beautiful, good thing and a mystical, magical thing, the experience of it can be very somatically intense and very challenging to the ego. And so it really is agreeing to go through a series of initiations and ego deaths for years. I would say a lifetime. I don't think I'm done going through ego. I know I'm not done. I have chosen a life, a career, where I agree to have my ego shattered again and again and again in order to do this with integrity. So Paul is one of my primary teachers. He's one of the very few channels that I care about. I mean, I would dare say that Paul is actually the only channel that that's not true. I don't want to say that I don't respect other channels. When I hear other channels, it goes in one ear and out the other. I'm very particular about my teachers. I just have a really high level of discernment in that department, especially having been exposed to a lot of weird shit after coming out as a channel. Anyways, I am jumping ahead in my story, but it all feels really important. I feel like even saying that helps me to feel good about sharing this part of the story. So Paul's entire body of work is a series of agreements that if you work through each of the books and you work with each book intentionally, it causes spiritual awakening. It's more than just the words that are being spoken. It's the activation that you're experiencing. So there's these claims and these agreements that you're speaking out loud. So you're agreeing to be brought into higher accord. You're agreeing to come into the perception and the understanding, the clear awareness of divinity in all things. So you are agreeing to be lifted in frequency or into what his guides call the upper room. I worked so in depth. And when I first started reading this book in 2018, I was saying to some of my friends, I'm reading the words, but while I do it, something is happening inside of my body. And so I really blame Paul Selig in a big way. Although ayahuasca helped a lot, my gifts came online real fast after working with ayahuasca. I primarily blame Paul Selig for the level to which my gifts and my psychic awareness came online, because I was agreeing, yes, yes, yes. To everything. Absolutely. Yes, God, please. And in time, I was just in the awareness of all things as divine. It just happened. So Paul's work is not for the faint of heart, but if you're curious, Paul Selig, highly recommend. So September 2018, I'm sitting at the table at work. At the time, I worked in a group home. I still had the same career working with the differently abled. I think that's the politically correct way to say it these days. I don't know. I'm sorry if that's wrong. And I was sitting at the table with a coworker, and she was telling me, and this woman, bless her soul, she was dope. She is still dope. I know she's still dope. But she's telling me the story of her recent journey with ayahuasca. And it was such a cool story. And I was absolutely fascinated. And then at some point, she asks me, have you ever considered doing ayahuasca yourself? And at the time, I had this story that I respected ayahuasca. I saw it as a useful medicine, but it wasn't the medicine for me. And so I gave her that spiel because I'd been working with psilocybin, but I never thought I would go any deeper than that. And honestly, I was terrified of ayahuasca. That's the truth. Ayahuasca scared me. I first learned about it when I was 19 years old, listening to a podcast with Aubrey Marcus and Joe Rogan. And Aubrey was talking about his experience with ayahuasca. And I found it super interesting. But I think because there was so much story about the purge and the discomfort and, oh, this master plant medicine, I was scared. Let's just be real. And my fear was being masked by this, oh, it's just not the medicine for me. But this woman calls me out and she says, what are you talking about? This is definitely your medicine. What? Which I was taken aback. Okay, why do you think so? And she explains, I'm so spiritual and I've had all these crazy experiences. Obviously, ayahuasca. And then she let me know that the next month, I think it was in September, might even been October. I don't know. The next month, they were going to be holding another ceremony. And she suggested that I apply. And by the end of that conversation, I just knew that I had to go. Now, one of my best friends also agreed to go with me. So I got to go with my best friend. And as with anything, I took this very seriously. I had a call with the facilitator and she told me about the diet, a special diet where you don't eat salt, no spicy foods, no oils, no pork, no red meat. Just basically you are eating very simple, unprocessed, basic foods, which wasn't that far from my regular diet already. And the idea behind the dieta is that you're working with a plant medicine. This is something that is really misunderstood and often a big way that you can accidentally, unintentionally disrespect grandmother, because when you're working with ayahuasca, you're working with a plant spirit. And I mean it. When you ingest ayahuasca, you come into contact with a highly intelligent plant spirit. And she works directly with you. Anyone who has worked with the medicine will tell you, we refer to her as she, okay? We refer to her as grandmother, and there's a reason. So the diet, the dieta, the reason that you adhere to this diet is because you are creating the environment inside of your body that is conducive to a plant. Now think about a plant. Are you going to put salt on the plant? No, it would kill it. You're going to put oil on the plant? No, it would kill it. You're going to put spicy food on the plant? No, it will kill it. And so in order for ayahuasca to work with your body to the highest degree, you adhere to a diet that allows your body to be more receptive to her. It's to your own benefit. As somebody who did a full-on dieta and resisted every bit of it, I now have such reverence and respect for why we diet in preparation for the medicine, because it just makes your experience better. Not to mention, most people are not eating very clean. To even lightly adhere to a diet in preparation is going to give you so much, because otherwise she's going to have to spend a whole lot of time getting a bunch of junk out of the way. And so I took the dieta really seriously. And as with anything, I went in with curiosity and devotion. I know that this is a big deal. Now, if you have worked with ayahuasca, you know this. We're working with ayahuasca time. I know this now, but my first, we were told that we were going to start at 7 p.m. We did not. Oh, the impatience that I experienced because I was so nervous. I'm sitting there waiting with my best friend. She's already done it before. So I'm trying to meditate and prepare my body. Meanwhile, it's taking way too long, in my opinion, for this to start. And I'm not even going to tell you the story of the first night because she just kicked my ass. I resisted purging. I resisted the experience. I was overwhelmed. I literally gripped onto the earth and trying not to throw up and shit my pants at the same time, while ayahuasca got 50 feet tall and told me she was queen. I came out of that experience with deep respect. She earned my respect that night. Holy shit. So I'm not going to tell you that part of the story, okay? And honestly, the main part of this story doesn't happen until later. Night 2 of my first round of ceremonies. We go up, we get our medicine, we sit back down. 15 minutes later, a woman across from me starts to scream in absolute terror, screaming that it's too much, it's too intense, too fast. They had to take her out to support her somewhere else. The medicine hadn't even hit me yet. So that felt like foreshadowing for what was about to happen. Not 5 minutes later, it hit me, and it hit me just the same. I was so disoriented. There's a few different ways that ayahuasca can present. So there's the body experience where you're really in your body, not highly visual. You're just having a lot of sensations. There might be physical discomfort or energy moving through the body. Then there's a very intense floaty DMT experience that you can have where you lose track of time or space or up or down. Then there's a super highly visual, rolling visuals. And then I'm very grounded and present, but I'm obviously in another dimension of consciousness and I'm in a highly visionary space. I'm receiving information. This is where you often will connect with interdimensional beings, and people talk about the extraterrestrial experience that you have. It's real. It's real. Not to say that I have favorites, but that's my favorite place to be in, where I'm grounded, I'm present, I'm conscious, I'm in control of my body, because there are some states where you lose control of your body and you just never know what it's going to be. You never know. It's a Russian roulette, the ayahuasca Russian roulette. And so when I come up in this night, it is intense rolling visuals. Eyes open, eyes closed, very intense sensation. I'm feeling very disoriented, incredibly nauseous. And yet I still just don't want to. I have such resistance to purging. Remember when I told you the part of my story where I had an eating disorder when I was younger? By the grace of God, I have such a resistance to purging because I think it would have been way harder to just overcome that eating disorder the way that I did. Just miraculously overcame it. Didn't even realize until I looked back. I looked back on my life and I realized without trying, I overcame an eating disorder. But if I had actually purged, which at the time I really wanted to, I always wanted to, but I just didn't like it. I didn't want to do that. So that's a way harder thing to break pattern. That's a deeper issue when it gets to that place. So I have a big resistance to purging. And so feeling this nausea in ayahuasca has always been challenging. Now, ayahuasca has helped me to get very comfortable with it. I don't have the same level of resistance the way that I once did. I now see the value of it when it is needed, but it's not my preference, that's for sure. Okay. Now, I want to just pause here for a second because I imagine that there are people that are watching this broadcast that maybe have never even heard of ayahuasca. Maybe you don't know about the master plant ayahuasca. It is one of the most potent psychedelics that you can take. It is a thick, dark brew that is brewed from the ayahuasca vine and the chacruna leaves that was discovered intuitively, a long time ago in the Amazon. The chacruna leaf and the ayahuasca vine are found in different areas. They don't grow side by side, but ayahuasca herself, I imagine, said, take this leaf, take this vine, bring them together. On their own, nothing. And you can drink ayahuasca, the vine, and you can drink a chacruna leaf. It doesn't matter. But you put them together, incredibly psychoactive DMT experience, and a very long, drawn out DMT experience that can last 6, 7, 8 hours, sometimes longer. I've sat in ayahuasca ceremony that lasted 12 hours. And so when you ingest this medicine, you go into this visionary psychedelic space. Ideally, you're doing this with high-level, well-educated facilitators. Again, if you are going to explore psychedelics, please find yourself a space holder, somebody who knows their shit. You don't have to do it the way that I did it, just doing solo psilocybin ceremonies. No. Once I was exposed to what it felt like to be in ceremony held by a facilitator in a container, that changed everything for me. It was very hard to go back after that. And now I have a very high standard, only the best. And all you have to do is put out a prayer to be aligned to a high integrity, well-educated, well-trained shaman. True shamans have been initiated through the medicine for lifetimes. It's not something you go down to the jungle for a month and do a quick little training and now you can serve ayahuasca. But no, true, honest, like the Shipibo shamans, they start training very young. They know right out the gate that they are meant for this path. Although that doesn't have to be the case. Like my teachers, she had been training at the time for 10 years. She's now been doing it for 15 years. Immaculate facilitator. You know, there's beautiful facilitators, but also as psychedelics have taken off, there are also a lot of people that are slapping the name shaman on their Instagram bio and just saying that they're a shaman and causing a lot of trauma and causing a lot of pain. This shit ain't no joke. Take it seriously, okay? If you're hearing this story and you really desire to experience this, put out a prayer for a high level, high integrity, true, honest, humble facilitator that really understands what it is that they're doing and why they're doing it. Okay. So the medicine hits me. I am rolling in visions. It is so intense. And I am terrified. I am so overwhelmed. I cannot surrender for the life of me. It is very intense. And prior to going into ceremony, the head shaman said, if you need support, just ask for help. Just say help. So I'm at the end of my mat gripping on for dear life. And I just say, help, barely audible. And she calls me up. She calls me up to the front. I sit down in front of her. She asks me what's going on. And I tell her I'm having a hard time surrendering. And so she turns me around, lays me down. And she starts to work on my body and sing over my body. She's singing Ikaro, which are the medicine songs that come through the plants. They are beautiful. They are very haunting, very specific. We'll see how I'm feeling. We'll check in on my vulnerability at the end of this. I might sing you an Ikaro. I channel Ikaro. Yandrosi. I feel like ayahuasca won't let me leave this without singing you an Ikaro. We'll see. We'll see. I might sing you an Ikaro at the end, and then you can understand what an Ikaro is. But they're these beautiful, haunting songs that weave the energy through the medicine, and you can never really understand unless you're in the medicine. So she's singing over my body and she's pressing into my body. And first, because my intention was around the heart. So first she's prodding my heart, and I'd never experienced energy work before. This was the first time anyone had ever laid hands on me. She starts pushing in, and then she starts going further down. Once she gets to my belly, she says, relax your stomach. And I didn't realize that I was even holding it. So I'm trying to relax it. She keeps repeating it. Relax your stomach, while she's pushing intuitively into my belly. And the whole time I'm just observing it and recognizing that really I'm not relaxing my belly. And then once she completes, without really saying anything, she just sends me back to my mat. The work is complete. I go back and I lay down. And as soon as my head hits the pillow, I finally surrender without effort because of the work that she just did. She literally opened up my ability to surrender to the medicine. Now, without effort, I'm no longer fighting it. I'm now giving in to the medicine, and I feel ayahuasca come into my body, and she's moving through me, and she lands down in my heart. And the first thing that I experience on this night is my heart starts to contract really tight, like it's wringing out, and then it relaxes. And every time I relax, I would just cry. I would sob so hard, and then my heart would contract, and then I'd sob. My heart would contract, and then I'd sob. And I had no control over any of this. This was all just happening. And even just that was fascinating to me. But then she had me sit up, and as I'm sitting up after I had cried and released so much from my heart, now she's moving through my body and I feel like a plant. I literally became ayahuasca on this night. Cecilia was gone. I like to describe this night like I was sitting in the back of a really long bus and ayahuasca was driving. And I was just in the back of the bus saying, oh, I'll never be the same after this. Without even thinking, my body starts to writhe, starts to swirl. I feel like a vine. I feel her moving through my neurology, literally through my brain. I'm feeling her going through my neural pathways, and then she would get to something. I wouldn't even know what. She would get to something that she'd be like, and my head would shake, shaking it up. And then she would carry on and shaking it out. Then she kept doing that. Every time I shook, it felt like a plant shuddering, shaking it off. Then I was experiencing these serpentine movements through my body, and it was like I got to experience for the very first time what happens when you fully surrender to your body. When you let go and you just let your body take over. Ayahuasca showed me through that. If I just get out of the way, my body already knows what to do, and it felt so good. I didn't even fully know what it was that I was releasing through that, but with every shake, with every shudder, with every movement, I knew that energy was being shed from my body, and it was so powerful. It changed everything for me. I mean, if you work with me today, I teach you how to do this. We're working in the body, working with expression, letting the mind take the back seat of the very long bus, letting the body take the lead so that you can fully express whatever's there, letting go, shedding from your neural pathways, all that you've been holding on to. Thank you, ayahuasca. Mientras sientra. So that continued on for the whole rest of the night. And the next day, I sat with my best friend and I was shook. I was speechless. For the whole next week, I kept having ayahuasca reactivations. I kept smelling agua de Florida, which is this perfumed flower water that they use in ceremony. I smelled it everywhere. I was so curious. They were holding these ceremonies every month. So I immediately signed up for the next one, the following month, because now I needed to know. I will never be able to put into words what it felt like to have ayahuasca so clearly in my body like that, to push me out of the way, to move through me, to become a plant. The way that I was moving, the way that I was breathing, that left me so curious. And I really understood that, oh, this is my medicine. I feel so resonant with this. I felt like I was coming home, like I had been gone for a long time and I had been reunited. You know, that first night, she really initiated me. She kicked my ass. She humbled me. But the second night, she had respect and love for me. Like, I see you. I see the way that you have surrendered. Thank you. This is my gift back to you. I'm going to clean up all of these neural pathways. I'm going to clean up all this shit out of your body for you. You're welcome. Ayahuasca and I became very good friends that night. I gained so much respect for her. That's why I immediately applied. Again, I'm coming to the next one. I ended up doing a 2-month dieta the first time I went into ayahuasca, and it was easy because I just needed to know. I had found my teacher. And I told you, I am very choosy when it comes to who I agree to teach me. I'm very particular. But when I met ayahuasca, teach me everything. I want to know everything. I need to know who you are, what is this? This feels like technology. Fascinating. So a month later, December 2018, I sit in ceremony again. I invited one of my best friends at the time to the ceremony with me. We're sitting side by side. And the first night was pretty simple. It wasn't, not that it wasn't profound, but there's nothing really to report. Honestly, I think the first night of this ceremony was in preparation. There's a lot more of what had happened to me in my second ceremony of just letting my body move and express, letting energy move. It felt pleasant. It felt good. There was nothing crazy, nothing wild. I literally don't even remember a single piece of wisdom that I received that night. I just remember moving and breathing and feeling a lot. Probably because I needed to be prepared for the following night when ayahuasca would blow my whole world to pieces. I told you, I've been integrating what happened to me in December 2018 in that ayahuasca ceremony ever since. Only now am I brave enough to tell you about it, especially to put this on YouTube. I'm putting this story on YouTube. Okay. God be with me. So second night, this is now my 4th time sitting with ayahuasca. The wind is blowing. It is December. It is winter. It is cold. The wind is blowing the yurt that we're in sideways, whipping it about. We had a generator that kept going out. The fire was out. They just gave up on the fire. So we're in the winter. It is cold inside of the ceremony space. And the wind is loud. I always like to speak about how the weather was because it adds to the drama. It adds to the drama of the experience that I had that night. I think if it had been quiet and peaceful outside, my night would have went differently. But this was a very dramatic night for me. One of the most dramatic nights of my entire life. So the wind is blowing. My friend is beside me and she's moving through something dark. And I couldn't even access my own shit because I was getting bombarded by whatever was happening there. I didn't yet know how to put up a boundary energetically. This was all new to me. Energetic stuff was all brand new. I had not explored that basically at all other than what happened to me in Death Valley. And so I'm on the corner of my mat trying to be as far away from her as possible while she's having her experience unsuccessfully. So I end up going up to the front and I asked the facilitator, the head facilitator, I said, can I just sit here at the end of her mat? I don't need you to do anything. I don't need anything. I just can't be over there. She's having an experience and it's getting into my experience. Is it okay if I sit here? And she says yes. And she also just starts to work with me. She starts to sing Ikaro to me. That wasn't what I expected, but of course I'm going to receive that. You're going to sing your mysterious plant songs to me? Hell yeah. I'm all for it. I'm all for it. So she asked me to sit right in front of her, and we're now sitting across from each other. And in the dark, you have to understand, ayahuasca ceremonies are in the complete dark. There is no light. And so I'm seeing her, and she's got her hood on. It's just, oh God, I love it. It is one of my favorite things in the world. So we're sitting across from each other. She's singing to me. And all of a sudden, as she's singing to me, I start to respond because I'm hearing, it's not just her songs. There's also a message I'm being communicated to, not even just through her. It's her, but there's a whole other layer beyond her. Something is communicating to me through her song telepathically. This opens up a telepathic line between us. And I'm receiving the information. Again, Cecilia's in the back of the bus, but whoever I am in this space is all of a sudden brought fully online. Ayahuasca Cecilia comes online in this moment, and I am listening to the song and saying, yep, yes, of course, yes, absolutely, understood, I understand. And there's a level to which that I actually understood, but on a human level, I was bewildered. I'd never had anything like this. I'd never received telepathic communication, not to mention being like, oh, yes, I see that you are explaining something to me beyond my human comprehension. And so we go back and forth like this, and then this voice says to me, crystal clear, because some of it was coming through in a language beyond words. Whatever was being communicated was beyond words. It was a language of frequency that something in me naturally understood. But then a message comes through that it's crystal clear. And it says, remember the cataclysms? And immediately I am sent through a Rolodex, rapid fire, remembering every single cataclysm that I had experienced as a soul. And it was going really fast. Now, there was this woman in the ceremony from Russia. She didn't speak any English. She had sat with ayahuasca over 300 times, specifically to discover what happened in Egypt, like what actually happened in Egypt. God, do I wish that I could have understood her. I had so many questions. I had so many questions for her. Her and I actually ended up becoming really close. Even though we couldn't communicate verbally, we found a way to communicate with each other. And oh, big love to her. Such love. While I'm going through this Rolodex of memories of cataclysmic events that I had experienced, her spirit comes in and says, remember Egypt? And it was like the Rolodex stopped. And I didn't remember visually. I didn't even remember exactly what it was. But the feeling, I just was like, oh, I remember. And then it picks up, and then it stops again, and the voice comes through. Again, she's just singing to me. She probably sang to me for 5 minutes, maybe 10. And the voice comes through and says, it's going to happen again. Matter of fact, almost joyfully, actually. It's going to happen again. Now, again, I remind you, there is a storm of blowing in this moment. The yurt is being whipped about. So there's so much drama in this moment for me. And I am shook by it, as anyone would. Hold on. It's going to happen again, but this time it's going to work. This time it's going to work. What does that even mean? And I start to receive it. The earth is going to be okay. The water is going to be okay. All of humanity will awaken. Bold claim, especially to a skeptical motherfucker like me. And truly, I am skeptical. It's part of my design. I do not just believe something unless it feels like truth in my body. But when this was coming to me, it felt like truth. Capital T truth in my body. And then I start to receive information at rapid speed. It took me years to be able to integrate all the information that was downloaded like a zip file into my body in this moment. I was only really getting flash visions and images, but one of the biggest things that I heard was that there was going to be something that happened. It would be in the next few years. It would be all over the news. It would affect the entire world. And this would be the cataclysmic event. The cataclysm wasn't going to be the way that I remembered so many other cataclysms that I just experienced in and through my body viscerally. It was going to be different. And I was assured of this. Don't worry. It's not as scary because the wind's blowing. I'm like, is it happening right now? Are we experiencing a cataclysmic event right now? And I was assured, no. No, it's not what you think, but it will affect the entire world. Everyone will be talking about it. I was seeing images of Trump, and I don't even know how to put into words all the things I was seeing because I couldn't even comprehend it. All the information, I was seeing visions of the future, of things that would come to pass, war and protest and all this stuff. It was pretty wild, especially now. So then she finishes her song and she sends me back to my mat after I just received all of that. And I'm like, holy shit. Okay. Then I go back to my mat and I'm sitting there shook. Okay. So you know how I told you that frequency, we're going to be so gentle here, can mess with the connection. I love how in the episode that I was telling you about that this happened, as soon as I told you that my teacher, she wasn't my teacher at the time, but she will be, sent me back to my mat, unhooking from the experience I just told you about, everything in my video just went into slow motion and totally tripped out. So I want to just take a moment and let's just take a moment together because I know that's even just that part of the story is pretty powerful. So just calling on the divine to really ground down through this transmission, through this story, anchor my body It's a lot of energy when I reflect back on this. It was a really big deal, and I'm not even done telling you. And that's why I want to just bring it into a really grounded space. So she sends me back to my mat. I sit down, and immediately I'm still receiving all of this telepathic communication. All of my spiritual gifts are coming online all of a sudden. And they remained online, not just because I was in the ayahuasca space. I mean, they came online after this. I was understanding telepathy. I was understanding energy. I was understanding vision, the sensations I was experiencing. It was all very visceral, and I was going through a big awakening experience. This was a very huge experience for me. And when I sat back down on my mat, the word that just kept repeating through me from this greater voice, the divine, God's source, really, all I could hear was remember, remember. Okay, so the glitch happened again. I had to totally restart my computer and try again. The potency of a story. I mean, especially knowing where this is about to go. So I'm praying that what I have done now, also my computer wasn't charging, even though it was plugged in this whole time, like it was on red. So we're using a lot of energy here. Clearly. Okay. So I'm sitting on my mat. This experience is still moving through me. And I start to hear on repeat, remember, 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 remember. And with every repetition of that word, I am remembering. I am remembering every single lifetime that I had ever lived. My soul was coming back online in the remembrance of my truth. I was remembering past lives. I was remembering some past lives very specifically, but it was more like remembering in a moment all of the lives that I had lived, just how long I had been around, and realizing that I had been completely veiled to my own truth up until this point. And so while this is happening, I am having this awakening of my spiritual gifts, my connection to life and God, remembrance, and it's just happening through my body. There's a very profound, energetic awakening that is occurring. And again, the storm really brought the drama. I always like to remind about that so that you can really get a feel for what it was like for me to be receiving all this information. And then on top of that, for there to be this huge windstorm that was very dramatically, as there was rain and the wind and the cold. It was a dramatic night. So then a voice comes in and it says, "Are you ready?" Ready. I wasn't ready for any of this. My human did not consciously sign up for anything that had happened up to this point. And so when the voice came in and asked me, which the grace and consent, first ask me before rocking my world. And I say, yeah, okay. Or something along those lines. All of a sudden, a vision opens up and it is crystal clear and it is visceral. And I'm seeing me seated perfectly, eyes closed. And from my body, I am pulsing out the frequency of God. Now, this would have been a lot just in and of itself, except that in the vision, I was surrounded by thousands of people. And we were all in the frequency of love, this pure, blissful state that everyone was there in agreement. Like we agreed to be together, to be with this frequency. And there was this whoo, 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 coming from me. Now, who I was in 2018 was a far cry from that. My perception of self compared to seeing that vision was such a major contrast that when I saw this vision open up, my response was to physically, with all my force, like the force of my soul, to physically push the vision away so violently that I threw myself back on my mat and I kick my arms and my legs and I say, no, 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 no. Too much responsibility. I didn't even comprehend what it was that I was doing in that vision. I had no reference point at all for what was happening in that vision. I didn't know. I didn't even really know about channeling at this point. I only got curious about channeling because of the experiences that I started to have after this night. Other than my reference point of Paul Selig, that was my only reference point, and I had not drawn any kind of parallel there. What I saw in that vision made no sense to my human comprehension at all, especially knowing where I was at then. I felt so unworthy to be alive. Because regardless of everything that I had experienced at that point, I still hadn't overcome my unworthiness. I still hadn't healed all my deep and dark and heavy wounds and my traumas. I saw that, and I saw the journey that I would have to go on, the shit that I would have to face, the things that I would have to overcome to become that. Me? No, absolutely not. And so I pushed it away, literally kicking my arms and legs on my back. I'm sure the facilitator probably saw me in that moment and was like, what is happening here? Because I'm not joking. That's exactly what I did in a panic. But the voice comes in and says, look, this is what you chose. This is who you are. This is what you came here for. This is your purpose. And this is so much bigger than you. And this is another little sidebar that I want to speak to, which is that we often hear about people having an experience of seeing themselves, I want to say Christed, in the Christed frequency, our highest self, the version of ourselves that is in absolute alignment with divine accord, in absolute agreement with 100% unconditional love. People have been having visions like this for a very long time. The thing that happens is that we see a vision of just ourselves. We don't see all the other moving pieces, the other people. We don't see that in others. And so this is where psychosis can come in. And so before we even go further, psychosis comes in when you see a vision of yourself like that and you have the Jesus experience, like I'm the only one. I am the one that is awakening. Nobody else. Nobody else can get here. I am special. And the ego latches on. That's why I pushed that vision away so violently, because something in me knew the egoic danger of seeing something like that. Seeing me radiating love with thousands of people, surrounded by thousands of people, seeing no other context of how I got there, who else is there with me, just me, because my soul needed to see me. Now, that was 8 years ago. I now understand. And on that night, I was told all of humanity is awakening. So I want to make very crystal clear that all the work that I'm doing, the embodiment that I'm choosing to hold and cultivate, and that I'm teaching others to hold and cultivate, is an embodiment that is available to all beings. If you choose to come in to the remembrance of your true divine nature, all you have to do is come into agreement with that. Most people are worshiping their separation. Most people are so caught in their unworthiness that to even consider that we could come into absolute accord with our divinity and remembrance of our divinity seems unheard of, blasphemous even. I mean, when I saw this vision, I was terrified of what that would mean for me, because I also knew simultaneously, although I rejected it so violently, I also knew I had no other choice but to get there, that I couldn't unsee what I saw. There was information for me. There was a map just in seeing where I could get to, just in seeing what I look like. My whole body was different. The way that I was structured was different. The way that I was breathing was different. The way that I was moving, the way that I felt in that vision was different. I knew that I would have to die 1,000 deaths to become that. That vision has not yet manifested. That's why I've been so afraid to share this story publicly, because I'm not there yet. I really had a story for the longest time. Oh, I could get emotional. That I would not allow myself to be seen until I had achieved it, until it was undeniable and irrefutable. That I had to be that. But something that has come to my attention since then is that how could I get to that place if I don't first put myself out there? I know that the divine would not pull the veil back on me if it wasn't time for me to be seen. And lately, the only thing that God has said, I said this before, is show them what I have made you. Show them what you have become. Tell them the story of your becoming. I am still in the story of my becoming. It has scared the shit out of me to hold that vision. And look, it would be one thing if I saw that one time. I could easily dismiss it, especially being as skeptical as I am. But I have seen it again and again and again and again. It hums in my consciousness every single moment of every single day. And it has developed. The vision has developed since that night. But that shook me. And I spent the rest of that night just getting right with what I was shown there, because there was so much information and that scared me. And I knew I couldn't be the same after that. Now, there was also a funny moment because I was seeing little snippets of things that would come to pass. So 2 years later, 2020 hits. We experience a global cataclysm. It's all over the news. Everybody is talking about it. It affects everybody on the planet, and it triggers a mass spiritual awakening that is continuing to this day. You know, when I received that message, I was like, I'll believe it when I see it. Even right after that weekend, in my home on Vancouver Island, where I'm from, there was a mass whiteout and the power went out across the island and it was all over the news. And I thought maybe that was what it was. And then COVID hit. And I was like, oh shit. Because when COVID hit, Then all the other things that I was seeing, I started to think twice about it. Okay, actually. And there has been many moments since then where things that I've received through that vision, which I'll never be able to put into words properly, the things that I've seen and received through that vision have come to pass. In fact, there was a moment where I was sitting, and this came through so quickly, I dismissed it immediately because it didn't make sense to me. Because something came through and it said, you're going to work with Aubrey Marcus. And I had been following Aubrey Marcus as someone enthusiastic about spirituality. I mean, I told you I listened to his podcast when I was 19, talking about ayahuasca on Joe Rogan. And so when that came through, that did not make any sense to me at all. I literally just brushed it away. Aubrey Marcus, what? Now, the next story I'm going to tell you heavily involves Aubrey Marcus. Aubrey Marcus, whatever you think about him, whatever your stories, whatever your judgments, I don't care. Keep them to yourself. Because of this man, my life was changed irrevocably. Because of this man, I was guided to completely hit reset on my life. So say what you will, I can only be grateful for what he created and continue to be grateful, regardless of spiritual politics and all the judgments that love to flow. Honestly, the ego and the judgment that flows through the spiritual community is a special flavor. It's a special flavor. I don't involve myself with it too much. I keep a distance for a reason. So that's the next piece of the story. One of the things that came through was you're going to work with Aubrey Marcus. That didn't make sense to me, but it's about to. It's about to make sense. And I would say every year it makes more and more sense. So I'll explain myself in the next episode. For now, we're going to leave it here. Thank you so much for holding me as I share the story. This is vulnerable. Obviously, this is vulnerable for me. I just told you a series of fucking wild stories. I've often thought that a lot of my stories, and it starts to accelerate, this all starts to accelerate so fast and so intensely that at this point, I can't tell you all the wild prophetic stories, like biblical level stories that have happened in my life. I'm not going to be able to even go into all of them. I'm going to pick and choose because I often think about some of the experiences that I have had are the type of experiences that people pass on through generations, these myths that are passed on, even just one of my stories. And I say this with zero ego. Ego in the ego jar, it's just the truth. And that's been really hard to wrap my mind around. The life that I am living is so profound, and the story that I carry is so profound that it shakes me to my core all the time. And it has caused me to resist, to really refuse the call. Time and time again, it's taken me a long time to get here, brave enough to sit in front of you. And so, yeah, this continues to be vulnerable to share this, but I also hope it gives you permission, and I hope it also serves you. Something that I love about storytelling, I love to hear people's stories. Like, tell me your lore. I want to hear your lore. I want to hear the mythos behind who you are, because there's always something that can be reflected in a story. And I really believe that. And so I pray that, especially as we continue to move forward in this story, that whatever I share can amplify your own story and give you permission to own what has happened to you. Because I also imagine, like I was saying, as a result of the events of 2020, many people went through massive spiritual awakening. And part of my intention here is to let you know that you are not alone. Whether you awakened then, whether you awakened before then, whether you are currently awakening now, just know that you're not alone. And that's part of my purpose here, is to just say, hey, I'm a human being, just a regular human being, nothing special. And yet this is what happened to me. And I have asked many times, why me? Why me? Why me? And the response I get every single time is, why not me? And why not you? Especially the more that I tell you my story and the pain that I have overcome, the more you will see that doesn't matter who you are worthy of remembrance. You are worthy of awakening. And that is my main message. That is my mission, is to show you that no matter who you are, where you've been, what you've been through, the pain, the darkness, the shadow that you hold, you are worthy of awakening to truth and love. It's available to each and every one of us. We can level the playing field. Everyone is worthy of that. There's no person that's so special that they don't get to awaken if they choose it. If you hear me talk about this and you're like, that's cool for you, but it could never happen to me, that's all you, baby. That's all you, baby. That's your own story. And I'm telling you that who I am today in this liberated state is also part of my mission to really give you permission that it doesn't have to look any particular way. The way that I express my divinity is so unconventional. And I've wrestled with this. I don't have the same holy, sacred, saintly vibe. That's not who I am. That wouldn't be true. So me in my awakened state is silly and weird and expressive and loud. Like, yes, I can come into those calm, centered, meditative, I can channel very high frequencies, but that wouldn't be honest of me to try to pretend to play the saint for you. And that wouldn't even serve you at all, because yes, we can awaken to the truth of divine, but we're also human beings in a body. We are human beings, animals, awake and conscious in a body with all kinds of emotions and feelings and reactions and responses and ways of expressing and thoughts and stories and behaviors. So many different iterations of the divine. The way that God expresses through me and the way that God expresses through you, totally different. And nobody, hear me in this, nobody can know how you express authentically except for you. You will never know your truth until you turn inward and you discover it. And you make that connection. You make that connection inward to awaken the truth of you. So I'm just here as a permission giver. This is how I express, and I'm choosing to be brave enough to let you see me and to teach you how to do it. I do not gatekeep. No gatekeeping here. I teach so many practices. I teach so many classes. I support you in awakening. So whenever you're ready to drop the story that you are unworthy and you are so special that you couldn't have love or you couldn't operate at an awakened state, whenever you're ready to drop that, hit me up, because I'm here to support you. It's actually not that big of a deal, and yet it is the biggest deal of our time. That's the paradox. That when you come into an awakened state, you realize, oh, right, this is just my birthright. The journey to getting there can be very intense, and you probably need support. You probably need support to help you to get there. Don't do that alone. Trust me, you'll hear about it in my next story. You don't need to do this alone. Get your supports. Find your teachers. It doesn't have to be me. If you feel a resonance with me, awesome. But there is somebody out there that can help you. So put out a prayer. Ask for support. Be brave. Be brave. Be brave. Okay, I'm going to end it here. So next week, we're going to talk about the next phase of my story. And I feel like every phase, I'm like, major catalytic moment. Whew. But it just keeps, it just keeps happening. So I'll share the next phase of my story where I make a decision that changes everything. And some of the next part of the story I'm not proud of. I actually do something in this next part of my story that I am to this day not proud of, but I will be honest and I will be totally real with you. Until then, and always, I'm sending you so much love. Thank you so much for being here with me. I'll see you next time. And that's it. That's all. That's it. I don't know how to end these things. I'm figuring it out as I go. Love you. Bye. Thank you so much for hanging out with me for the Awaken Broadcast. If this episode resonated with you, supported you, or awakened something within you, I'd love for you to subscribe or follow the show. Leave a review, share it with a friend, or drop a comment wherever you're listening or watching. It genuinely helps this work reach the people it's meant for, and I'm very grateful for that. If you want to go deeper, you can find me on Instagram at Awaken with Cecilia, Cecilia, or explore everything I offer at awakenwithcecilia.com. I've linked it all for you in the show notes, masterclasses, my monthly membership, and other ways to dive in. Thanks again for being here. I'm looking forward to seeing you in the next broadcast. Until then, I'm sending you so much love.